So welcome to today's Greater Life CoffeeCast. And today our focus is, being the pillar of health, is actually on mental health. And more specifically on, and I guess this of course could feed into the pillar of happiness as well, on making sure that we remove unnecessary stress from our lives. And I came across an article from my partner where she was talking about balance overall and the importance of the concept of balance. And she shared one thing that really struck me as key, because it's something that, it's a frame of reference that I think is so powerful in helping to dissolve stress. And it's something that I very much have adopted as well for my own life. And yet it does throw up some questions that we will have to cover. So the frame of reference is to ditch this idea of work-life balance. That if you have competing silos in your life of work and family and then leisure time, that you're setting yourself up to constantly be in tension, rather than accepting simply what is and what needs to be, and doing everything that you can in the moments that you have available to move towards contentment in any area of your life. Because the reality of how, if we look at nature, nature does not do things in linear, consistent step-by-step processes, right? The entire kind of Egyptian civilization was founded upon the basis of the Nile flooding once a year, right? So literally there'd be very little water, loads of water and loads of silt that would be very fertile and that they could plant their crops in. Okay? So for the ancient Egyptians, you know, some kind of work-life balance meant being content with maybe some periods of inactivity, and then when the deluge came, to be very, very active for a very short period of time so that the seeds were planted. Okay? And for them, that was what work-life balance would have looked like. All right? And even just if we take farmers across the world, during the winter, there is much less actual growing and tending of crops to be done. And thus it's a time more for machinery, more for maybe tending to the house, tending to other areas that don't get as much attention when, as the saying goes, the sun is shining, so hay's got to be made. All right? Now, there are some nuances to this. Okay? And one of the big questions is do you actually enjoy your work? Can you find joy in it? Because the challenge here is that if you are consistently having to do something that does not bring you even a modicum of joy, then that it's going to be a suck on your joy across the rest of your life. That's just a simple fact. So where right now where would you, if you're going to score yourself out of 10 for your current business life, in terms of actually the joy it brings you, being real, if 10 was the most joyful and 1 is like, oh my gosh, I've got to do something different, where are you right now? Because it's really important to get clear, because almost the rest of this framework and discussion makes very little sense if we haven't actually got some clarity on that. And again, this may fluctuate, right? I guess around January, whenever it is that people submit their tax returns perhaps, maybe, or the end of the financial year, maybe there's going to be a few more spreadsheets than you might like. Maybe you love spreadsheets. Do you see? But there's going to be perhaps some periods where there's not as much joy as you might normally ascribe to your work. And that's okay, because there may be other times when you're doing the thing you most love to do in your business and you get to do it for 2 or 3 weeks on a time. But overall, if you take a look at your business right now over the last, say, 12 months, where would your joy stack up for your business? And the key here is that we need to be able to find some joy, because what it then allows us to do is to let go of these concepts like work-life balance. Because suddenly all it is, okay, today my joy is in business, or for this next 6 hours, my joy is in business. And later, for the next 4 hours, my joy is in family. Today, I had to do 10 hours of business joy. Okay, well, let me actually make sure that I set aside a bit more time in the rest of this week to just top up my joy for myself. Okay? So that it's not to say that there aren't different kinds of energy and different ways of flowing and being in these different areas of our life. But it's to dissolve these hard and fast boundaries of like, okay, now I must every day do 8 hours of work, and that is, because on some level, that level of rigidity is actually fundamentally imbalanced. And there is one overarching frame that I would offer here that for me has really helped to dissolve these notions of work-life balance and to ditch the silos that they are kept in and the competing stresses that they create. And it's simply this. Wow. Wow. I get to be alive. I get to be alive and even have a problem like, how do I maintain work-life balance, if that's such a thing? Wow. I get to try and build a business that sometimes feels really hard. Wow. What an incredible feeling hard is. Some days where I just get incredible joy from my business, from my family, from spending time with myself in nature, doing the things I love. Wow. So, for me, the frame of reference that it is a gift to be alive, that it is an opportunity to be celebrated, suddenly melts away so many of the other labels and stresses I might have associated with work or life. Wow. I get to be here. I get to take breath. I get to make connections. I get to feel emotions. I get to try and do things. I get to learn. I get to grow. Wow. So, acknowledging where you're at in the joy around your business and hearing that frame of reference, that overarching frame of reference of wow, that it is a gift to be celebrated, this life, however it shows up. Today, what can you do to ditch the silos and just to allow your life to become a flow of joy in one way or another, celebrating the wonder of simply getting to be alive?